of Dasaratha, the curse, the queen's lament, and the end of an era. Chapter 61, Kausalya's condemnation and Dasaratha's collapse. As the night deepened in Ayodhya, Kausalya, her heart shattered by Rama's exile, turned to King Dasaratha with words of anguish and reproach. O king, your fame once spread across the three worlds. But now, by sending Rama, Sita, and Lakshmana into the wilderness, you have brought ruin upon our house. How will Sita, raised in comfort, endure the hardships of the forest? How will Rama, who once slept on silken beds, now rest on the bare earth? What food will Sita, accustomed to delicacies, now eat in the wild? Kausalya's grief overflowed, and she declared that her life was empty without her son. She lamented that even if Rama returned after his exile, Bharat would never relinquish the kingdom, for the world does not value what has already been enjoyed by another. Dasaratha, unable to bear her sorrow and the weight of his own guilt, lost his senses and collapsed, his mind clouded by the consequences of his actions. Chapter 62, Dasaratha's Remorse, the shadow of past deeds. Dasaratha, forced to hear Kausalya's angry words, was deeply distressed and absorbed in sad thought. He lost consciousness, his senses bewildered, and after a long time, he regained his senses, heaving deep, hot sighs. Seeing Kausalya by his side, he relapsed into anxiety. A sinful act from long ago flashed in his mind, the act of discharging an arrow guided by sound. Dasaratha regretted both the grievous acts he had committed, shooting at the son of a sage and banishing Rama. Consumed by double sorrow, trembling, with head down and hands folded, he pleaded with Kausalya. O Kausalya, I entreat you with folded palms. Be merciful. You are forever affectionate, not cruel even towards your enemies. He praised her adherence to righteousness, saying that for women who regard dharma, a husband is a god incarnate, whether virtuous or not. He begged her not to speak unpleasant words to one suffering greater grief. Kausalya, hearing his pitiable words, shed tears like a water channel discharging fresh rainwater. Frightened, she wept and raised her folded palms to her head, charged with emotion, and said with stumbling syllables, O Lord, by falling at your feet, bowing my head, I beg you to be pleased. By your act of beseeching me, I am badly hurt. I do deserve to be pardoned. She acknowledged that grief destroys fortitude, knowledge of scriptures, and everything. There is no enemy equal to grief. Even learned ascetics are deluded by grief. She lamented that the fifth night of Rama's exile felt like 5 years to her, and her heart swelled with sorrow like the ocean rising with rushing rivers. As Kausalya spoke these heart-touching words, the rays of the sun faded and night fell. Dasaratha, consoled by Kausalya, came under the spell of sleep, still overcome with grief. Chapter 63, The Sage's Son, Dasaratha's Tragic Hunt. Waking up, tormented with grief, Dasaratha pondered once again. The banishment of Rama and Lakshmana besieged him like the sun enveloped by darkness at eclipse. He recalled his former evil deed and wanted to narrate it to Kausalya. He spoke of the consequences of actions, saying that one who does not foresee the good or evil consequences is considered a child. He compared his actions to cutting down mango trees and planting palasa trees, regretting later when only flowers appear instead of fruit. Dasaratha recounted his youth as a great archer, able to hit targets by sound. During the rainy season, he went hunting near the river Saryu, hiding in a lonely place with his bow ready, intending to shoot a buffalo or elephant coming to drink water at night. He killed 2 animals by following their sounds, then heard a pitcher being filled with water resembling an elephant's. Seizing his arrow, he aimed at the sound and discharged a sharp shaft. In the morning twilight, he saw the arrow had struck a forest dweller, who cried out as he fell in the water. The ascetic boy, struck by the arrow, lamented, How can an arrow be discharged at a person like me, an ascetic? I live on forest produce, renouncing violence. Why should anyone kill me? He grieved not for his own life, but for his blind, aged parents who depended on him. He asked Dashratha to inform his father, lest in anger he should curse him. The boy instructed Dashratha to gently remove the arrow, which was piercing deep into his vital part. Dashratha pondered whether to remove it, knowing it would be painful and fatal. The ascetic boy, suffering in agony, told Dashratha not to fear guilt for slaying a Brahman, as he was born of a Shudra mother and a Vaishya father. Dashratha removed the arrow, and the boy died, leaving Dashratha deeply shaken by the suffering he had caused. Chapter 64, Dashratha's Final Confession, The Curse of the Blind Hermit. Dashratha continued his tale, describing how he followed the path to the hermitage, carrying the water pot as instructed. He found the boy's blind parents, sitting helpless and talking about their son, their only hope. Smitten with grief, Dashratha revealed the tragic news. The sage, stunned by grief, listened as Dashratha explained how he had mistaken the sound for an elephant and killed their son. The parents, devastated, asked to be taken to their son's body. They mourned him, recalling his virtues and lamenting their loss. The son's spirit ascended to heaven, and the sage, overcome with sorrow, cursed Dashratha. Just as he had suffered the grief of losing his son, so too would Dashratha die from sorrow over his own son. The sage and his wife performed the funeral rites and ascended the pyre, leaving Dashratha to reflect on the curse that now seemed to be coming true. Dashratha felt his life slipping away, unable to see Kausalya, and lamented that he would not see Rama again. He described his failing senses, likening them to the rays of a lamp giving way when the oil is exhausted. His grief was destroying him like the bank of a river eroded by its swift current. He cried out for Rama, Kausalya, Sumitra, and cursed Kaki, declaring he was going to die. Dashratha, anguished by the exile of his son, muttered until past midnight, then, tormented by intense agony, breathed his last. Chapter 65, The Palace in Mourning, The Passing of Dashratha. On the following day, unaware of Dashratha's death, panegyrists, bards, genealogists, and singers arrived at the palace, eulogizing the king's glory. Their songs and benedictions filled the palace, accompanied by the notes of veena and chanting of hymns. Attendants brought water mixed with yellow sandal paste in golden vessels, and young maidens brought auspicious unguents and accessories for the king's bath. All the articles were presentable and as per tradition, but the king did not appear. The women who attended Dashratha's bed approached to wake him, but found no sign of life. Trembling, they feared the worst. Upon closer inspection, they became certain of the inevitable. Sumitra and Kausalya, overpowered by grief, were fast asleep and did not wake up, as if possessed by death. Kausalya's face was dull and pallid, her limbs contracted, and she looked lusterless like stars enveloped in darkness. Sumitra lay next to her, both queens appearing lifeless. The women in the inner apartment, realizing the king had died in his sleep, bewailed bitterly and loudly, like female elephants mourning their leader. Their lamentations woke Kausalya and Sumitra, who looked at the king, touched his body, cried aloud, and collapsed on the floor. Kausalya lay on the ground, writhing in pain, coated with dust, and devoid of brightness like a star fallen from the sky. Dashratha's wives, led by Kaki, burning with grief, lost their senses and fell. The wailings grew louder, reverberating throughout the palace. On the demise of Dashratha, joy vanished instantly. The palace was thronged with anxious, bewildered people. The royal family was anguished, and the palace was filled with cries of agony, looking miserable with grief. Dashratha's wives gathered around him, weeping piteously and bitterly, holding one another's hands and bewailing like orphans.